What is that thing behind me? What is happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic, whatever day it is. Happy quarantine. I think it's Sunday. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Sunday. Hope everybody's doing well. So, in this installment of what would normally be Mopar Chat Live, we're talking about the truck. That's right. The new project is in. Going to be giving you guys some details as far as what is going to be going on with this. Just so happens somebody's ears must have been burning. Doc Diff is checking in. What is happening, my man? Hope everything is going well. You're going to be getting some recognition in this, so get ready. So what's going on with this thing? Well, it is about time to do something a little bit different. And I'm not doing anything a little bit different when it comes to the Hellcat. And that's part of the problem. You see, the Hellcat has already kind of gotten to where it's going to be. I don't have any desire to do any pulleys or fuel changes, tuning it for race gas, maybe this winter. But the reality is that we're just not going to see much more from that thing. And I wanted something a little bit different. And not only as a project in the short term, but a long-term project. Something that would be fun to build, something that would be less expensive, to say the least. It's something with readily available parts. Something that, by the way, I think I'm getting a contact high from this thing. Freaking carburetors. But I think you guys know where I'm going with this. And what better place to start with than a GMC C25 3/4 ton long bed, of course, because they only made them in long bed, Chevy truck. Now, listen, the truck is pretty clean, but it's clean circa probably 20 years ago. About 20 years ago, somebody did spend quite a bit of money on this truck, and that's been it since. So here's the thing: it needs doors, it needs it needs a lot of things. All right, but just as far as being a good place to start, the cab is in good shape, the frame is in good shape, all the trim is there, so the hard to find parts are there. Now there's going to be a lot that's going to have to be done along the way. Lots of bodywork type things. The truck looks great on camera and it looks fantastic going down the road, but the reality is, well, it's a freaking 50-year-old truck, and these things over time need a lot of love to keep them rocking and rolling. So that being said, that'll be illustrated along the way. But first and foremost, let's address what's under the hood, because everybody was going to want to know what's underneath the hood of this thing. This has got the 400 small block Chevy underneath the hood. If you're not familiar with the 400 small block, it's kind of an oddball of an engine. Sean's asking if it's a 71. It's actually 72. Last year, the body style. But the 400 small block is a little bit of a weirdo. It's on paper, it's actually kind of a badass engine. Siamese bore block, but it's only 2-bolt main. High nickel though. 4.25 bore, 372 stroke, I think. If I'm not exact, it's pretty close. Anyway, it comes out to about 400 cubic inches. What that basically means is that it's real torquey. I know that there's guys that have built these things for drag racing, but you can't really spin them real high, and the rod to stroke ratio is kind of garbage. But that being said, a lot of folks have built 383s, and 383 is basically this crank and a 350 bore. Of course, you have to machine this crank down. But anyway, that's kind of what we're up against right now. So the engine's got some blow by, but it runs strong enough. Issues that I'm running into with it so far. Well, here's the problem. Anytime you start working on a project that's got the age on it that this thing does, you're going to start running into some problems right away. I did not buy a cream puff. Guys, I know it looks good in pictures, but it is needing a lot of body work. It needs engine work. But here's the big deal. So Dr. Diff and I are going to partner up on this thing. Going to try to do a 700 R4 swap on this thing relatively soon. I've got some work to do before I take the truck down there to them, namely cab mounts, because still has the what's left of the original cab mounts and their shot. The rails, though, on the cab are great. In fact, the rails, the L-shaped piece of metal that actually sits on the mount itself. But the rocker supports are literally gone. So anyway, but it needs new rockers, so it'll probably get new rocker supports and new rockers whenever that happens. So, but yeah, we're going to be looking at 700R4 swap. Whoever had this truck before decided that they wanted to gear the living hell out of it, I think. This thing going down the freeway, I don't have a tack yet. I still need to hook one up to it. But that's going to be easy because it was converted to HEI. So thanks, whoever converted it to HEI. 2-wire hookup. Anyway, actually 3 because there's a ground wire. But anyway, but the funny thing about it is that they just put the absolute wrong headers on this truck. And so I've got fuel lines that are practically rubbing up against headers. So if you guys know anything about carburetors or fuel and heat, things like that, they don't go that well together. And so it goes into vapor lock if it sits idling for any real length of time. I need to replace that gas cap because it's not venting, and so it'll either build up excess pressure in the tank or it builds a vacuum, which will either, you know, starve the thing of fuel or basically just lead to some pains in the asses with some fuel leaks that I've had, which is great because the gas tank isn't back there. It's in the cab. Yeah, this is the last year of the body style where you're basically riding around in a bomb. So that's kind of fun. But anyway, getting back to it though, the main goal for this is, my wife's jumping on there. Tell them who owned the truck before. All right, so here's the thing. Gotta get to this. So this truck has actually been in a movie, and I'm getting to that. But anyway, to get to that point, Raymond, it's a 72. But this truck was in a movie called The Lost Husband. And if you're not familiar with the movie, it's an independent film. And basically the way that it broke down was the guy, I can't remember, babe, tell him whoever it was, I can't remember the guy's name or the girl's name. Anyway, it's a chick flick. Anyway, read my wife's comments. She'll give you all the pertinent details. Ricky Bobby's wife, the hot wife from Ricky Bobby, is the main character. She's driving it. Anyway, that's just some background on the truck. Joshua Duhamel was the other actor that was in that movie as well. Fergie, can't help it, girl. Anyway, that's her ex-husband. Anyway, let's turn your wife loose with a cell phone, not here. So anyway, I'm just kind of flipping through some of these, some of the comments here. Dr. Div saying, let me spice up the Hellcat, then bring the truck. Hellcat's done, dude. I am done freaking messing with that car. Time to have something fun. So the idea behind this is, Shawnee, how much did the movie factor cost you? Nothing, believe me. So here's the thing. The way that I'm going about this truck is I want to build the truck that I was never able to build when I was a kid. And what I would have probably been able to get my hands on. First of all, the thing with these trucks is that they're obnoxiously expensive. Everybody wants to get their hands on them, but then they go out and do, 5-lug conversions on them, and they convert the long beds into short beds because reasons. Anyway, that's not what I want to do with this truck. It's going to remain a 3/4 ton. It's going to remain a long bed for several reasons. One, I think it looks cool, and two, it rides nice. This thing rides like a freaking Cadillac. It makes it kind of nice to take out on trips, even though the transmission is exploded. Anyway, getting back to the Dr. Diff angle on this. The idea is to go 700R4. The gear in this thing is something, from the calculations, I think it's about a 430, but I should have a tack installed in this thing probably by tomorrow night, and I can take it out on the highway, get an idea for where RPM really is based on actual GPS speed, because the speedometer, although it seems to work pretty well, is shown to be about 17% off. which would indicate that if this truck originally had 354 gears, it's probably got like 410s or 430s in it now. So that makes it kind of nice. But going down the freeway, but it's going to take a lot of work. And the idea behind this, again, is just to build something that is fun. I can go on long road trips with it, light the tires up at will, which is another major aspect of this truck. It's going to have to be able to do. It's going to have to be able to provide just dumb fun without the expense of having to go through the Mopar tax, without the issues of parts availability, without the nonsense that has been coming lately from my search for a Dodge truck. So that's kind of an angle that I want to talk to you guys about too. But anyway, before I get too deep into that, definitely want to bring up that movie again. It's called The Lost Husband. It's got the Duhamel guy, the Ricky Bobby's ex-wife, whatever, from Talladega Nights. She's in it. If you look up the previews, I don't know, she's crying in the truck, that's this truck. That's this thing. So a little bit of a movie star, but yeah, if you want to call it that. Let's see here. Oh, Raymond's asking, what model and year is the truck? It's a 72 C25 GMC. Thank you, Arthur, for the compliment on the trim. Let's see. Fast Man saying, hey, Mr. B, what's up, Fast Man? Shawnee's saying, nice switch up. Warhead saying, 700 R4s never die. Well, I've actually killed them. Ben Waiting saying, is it a big block? No, it is not a big block. In fact, I didn't really want a big block truck. But that being said, it is a 400 small block. And I know it's a boat anchor. But here's the thing. I can actually do a little bit of damage with a 400 small block. And the way that I figure I was going to do the build on this, it will probably be it's going to be pretty laid back. It's got a 2-barrel on it right now, so it's going to get a 4-barrel. Although it is the Rochester 2-barrel, so at least it's it's the bigger 2-barrel, but it's still kind of a piece of crap. So it'll get a 4-barrel. It'll get the right set of headers. It'll also probably get a cam. Something fairly mild, something like a 232, 236 type of a deal. I'll let you know where I'm heading with this. Maybe we'll see. No, I'm just kidding. The main thing is just kind of a mild cam, nothing major. Maybe a set of cylinder heads down the road. The main thing though is that it's going to remain somewhere south of about 450 horsepower. So that's kind of the limit. But the cool thing is that even at 400 horsepower, these 400s make a ton of torque. So, the thing about it is, you're already there in terms of displacement with it being a 400. The cool thing about it is that it's no different than working on a small block. So, there's that. And if I ever did decide to do another type of a build, it would be another small block because big block ain't going to happen. Also, another question. What about LS swap? I'm not there yet. If I end up changing my mind and moving away from the 400, it would just mean that I would be going with another small block. Again, going with a big block in this case, I'd go small block, 4-bolt main, about 11-to-1, 10.5-to-1 compression, 383 with, a good set of heads, performer RPM intake, and call it good. Again, somewhere around that 400 horsepower, 425, 430 foot-pounds of torque range, and leave it at that. Because the idea is for it to be reliable. The idea is for it to be fun. And again, it's so if the question is, what about speed? This is me kind of putting my money where my mouth is when it comes to just wanting to have fun, just wanting to goof off, just wanting to put something together that's going to be a riot to play with. I've kind of gotten bored with the notion that that throwing more power and going faster on top of faster with a side of faster is better. I have more fun lighting the tires up and just goofing off in my wife's Camaro than you should be allowed to have. And that's really kind of the idea with this truck. It's just a bigger version of that. And with what I'll end up doing with the truck, it'll be a really strong running truck. I think, the idea, I'll put it like this. The idea is to put something together that runs, say, mid to low 13s, high 12s with the truck, and then call it good. It's done. It's finished. And then have something that'll cruise long distances with no problems whatsoever, and just enjoy the thing. And again, it's all about building that truck that you would have wanted to have, or that you would have built when you were a kid. I was broke, so I didn't get that opportunity. And I think I spent most of my adult life chasing that, and I've had the opportunity to own and drive and, drive four guys with a whole lot of money that have, high 7, low 8-second cars, lots of 8-second cars. I've owned my own share, fleet of 9-second cars. At that point, they're not fun anymore. And to me, when they're not fun, it's time to get rid of it. The Hellcat is still a bunch of fun for me. But this is a completely different driving experience. And I don't really want to get into the whole back and forth of comparing this to that car, because, obviously there's just no way you can do it. But let me catch up with some of y'all's comments. Dr. Div saying, oh wait, hang on. Let me, Sean saying, damn, that thing's a beauty. Thank you very much. Shawnee's saying that is a factory 400 for that truck. Yeah, sounds like it. So apparently it is. Philip saying, turn to a 406 Stroker. It's already kind of there. Riff saying, actually, I need to get me a truck to take to the track with me. What do you think a good starter truck would be that I can mod modelly and still have it be reliable? Start modding with the transmission, but find you anything with an LS and go from there. Shawnee's saying, how big the head's 202 on the intake? I have no idea. I don't think they're that big. These are probably like 184s or something like that. These are, coming right up on the emissions era. I mean, they're not bad. And I think the idea with the 400 was to have an engine that was more or less, I don't know, this thing may have been born with a 350. You can't do a VIN decoder on these. I've tried anyway. But the 400, the idea was to get all the torque basically that you could out of the smallest possible combination. So, but it had a surprisingly long service life, which I found kind of interesting. So anyway, getting to it, let's see. Rip saying, I just need a truck that my girlfriend can drive behind me to the track of my drag pack. I hear that. Speed Freak saying, I just got in. Badass truck. I love it. Thank you very much. Got the arm flex. Dr. Doe saying, goofing off, killing some tires is the fun stuff. My son's 96 LT1 Camaros are a riot. Hell yeah. SCAP saying, I always want to do a Chevy 454 full bolt-ons to make crazy torque monster. Dr. Doe saying, won't do but a 13, but it will smoke the tires for half a mile, and that's all I want to do with this thing too. Shawnee's asking, is it a turbo 350 or turbo 400? What's in it now is a turbo 350. This would have been, the way that it's optioned, that's the other weird thing. It doesn't have the AC pump in it, but it's an AC power steering, power brake truck. So, fairly high option for its day. The only thing it's lacking is a big block, which might not necessarily be a bad thing. But, and also, with it being a power brake truck, that power brake booster is about that big around. It's a monster. Let's see. Warhead saying it's hard to beat a small block when it comes to reliability and price. Absolutely. And Dr. New saying agree. The Rams become more work than fun. That's really the point of it. You know, look, when it comes to like the Hellcat's a perfect example of this. I have already gone down the path of being a part of a build or being involved in a build or funding, bankrolling builds that ended up being more of a job than they were a joy. And for me, it's just not really worth it at that point. I'm pretty much over the notion of trying to go 9s or 8s or whatever. I've already proven my point with the Hellcat. Everybody that had a voice that had any experience with Hellcats was saying, 93 octane, you'll never go that quick. When I was talking about, running into the 1020s, I think the fastest example was 1030s at that point. Well, I not only went 20s, I went teens. And I don't see anybody lining up trying to beat that. So that's about as fast as I really want to go anymore. And for me, there's just no real reason to have anything that isn't fun. It's actually Dr. Differential and I were talking about this. When you start talking about cars that are fast and are doling out and reeling in real estate, I should say, on a wholesale level, you've got to realize that there's so many limited times that you can actually really take advantage of that safely and without going to jail if you get cracked. And one of the things that I had said, what I had referenced was, look back at those 60 to 130 videos that I've put out there when I was data logging the Hellcat. The funny thing about it is that I watt the throttle and, watching the world, start accelerating past you, and the show's over in about 7.5 seconds. And the data log, the data stamp that I'm looking at is I'll hit the throttle at 60, run it through, I'll start looking at the data at 70, and then watch that out to about 130 miles an hour. That typically takes between 6.5 and 6.7 seconds, depends on the air outside and what tune I'm running. That's really quick if you think about it to cover that kind of mile an hour. And to be honest with you, it's not fun. It's weird. This thing going down the highway is, at 70 miles an hour, you're driving this thing. And it's a long bed, so it's even more stable than the short beds. Rides nicer than the short beds too, by the way. I think I mentioned that already. But I mean, it's part of a fun experience. Arm hanging out, wind in your face. Hair is gone, so I can't mention that. But it's a fun truck to drive. Whereas, the modern cars, let's be honest, the modern cars, you're just along for the ride. You're not really driving it. And that was the other thing, when I was a kid, a young kid, 10, 12 years old, my grandfather had me in his old Dodge on the oil field roads, hanging the ass into that truck out, him with a 6-pack of beer in his lap, laughing his ass off while I'm, control the skid, boy, come on, line it out. I had a pretty kick-ass childhood. So, these are the things that I grew up with. That's what I want to get back. That's the kind of fun that I want to get back. This, by the way, will never be a show truck. In fact, it's going to start looking a lot worse than it before it starts looking better. Once the kick panels, once the cab corners, even though the cab corners look good, but they've got some body filler in them, so probably cab corners get replaced. The doors, you might not be able to see it. Somebody tried to use some blue paint and it looks like shit. But anyway, door skins get replaced, all that. It'll go back in for paint. I'm going to keep the same paint scheme. I like the blue and white. But that's kind of the long-term idea to go along with this. But the fun part is the more important part of it. Just the enjoyment and the giddiness of doing dumb stuff in an old truck. That to me is a hell of a lot more fun than, the white knuckle, hauling ass in something, or worrying about taking something to the track that you're worried to death that you're going to break the damn thing because you can't afford to fix it if it does break. I don't want that. That's not fun. It's not cool. you know, every time I take the Hellcat to the drag strip, I'm thankful because I know that I've got a very robust and solid combination. That's what I'm going to be replicating with this truck. Just something tough, fun, and a riot. And you know, my wife will take it to work, light the tires up, leaving work, that kind of stuff. I'll just be goofing off with it. Basically, but the most expensive thing by the time this thing is all said and done that I'll have to worry about is keeping tires on the back of it. So, but, I need to clean up these old aluminum wheels. Again, she needs a lot of work, but I think she's going to be worth it, and it's going to be a lot of fun along the way. So, getting back to it, Shawnee's saying what I meant was, what size head do you want to do eventually have on that truck? Yeah, it'd be 202s on this one. Let's see. And probably in terms of heads, it would be a set of like AFR 190s would probably be the heads that would go on it. Michael's saying, I have a 16 Grand Cherokee 5.7, 5,400 pounds, full bolt-on cam, springs, and rods, has factory 309 gears, tons of fun. What's your opinion of those? If you're asking me what my opinion is on Grand Cherokees, they're a riot. I love them. Have a lot of fun with those things. Let's see. Oh, it's hand level, basically a truck. It is a truck. Riff saying, speaking of Camaros, I definitely would have went with one over the Challenger at first if they did not look like talking toys when they first came back out in 2010. A lot of people have said that, and a lot of people have, I'm not going to say forgotten about the Camaro, but I will say this. You just don't seem to see them as often as you used to, which is a bit of a shame because they're actually really nice cars. I just had a Topo Chico go freaking grenade on me over here. That was pretty funny. In terms of what you can do to them, to make them fast, but I don't know, man. I just never could warm up to those cars. ZL1, sure, but I just never really could get on board with them. Rip saying, also getting kind of tired of everybody covering up their engines with plastic. True that. Corey is saying, oh, he's got a 91 Chevy S10 lowered. I love S10s. That's another truck that I would have loved to have built or have built, to put a small block in an S10 or do a 4.3 build and hit it with about 150 shot. That would have been a riot too. I had a, a 95 Splash, Ranger Splash 4-liter with a 5-speed. Let's see. Christopher's saying, I went to the dark side with my other project. I got a 93 Lightning. Very cool. 5.8 GT40 intake and GT40 heads with a 410 8.8. Makes for a fun ride. Yeah, it does. And my dad in the Mustang that he has a Lightning short block with AFR 185 heads, FCAM 17s, and a Lightning intake manifold. So true GT40 Lightning. Johnny's saying, yes, these newer Hellcats are just way too fast for the street. They're meant for the quarter mile, in my opinion. The thing is that you can point them in a direction and drive them. And they will go across country, as you well know. I mean, you did it yourself, with no muss or fuss. The problem is, well, think of it like this. With this truck, once Dr. Diff is done working his magic, because I am going to leave this in his capable hands, and I cannot wait to report on his successes with it when it comes to this transmission stuff. But here's the thing. With this truck or my wife's Camaro, I really can't even do it with my work truck. Where I'm going with is this. I like something that I can, when I'm talking about fun, you get in the thing, stall it up just a little bit, go to watt, and it'll light the tires up through first gear, second gear, roll through second gear, maybe chirp third, and you're on your way. That is when you are at the limit of tire, or you're just on the other side of being past that traction limit. You know what I mean? In other words, first gear you smoke the tires. Second gear you continue to smoke the tires. That's when the cars are fun. That's when these trucks are a lot of fun. you know, when you can't really go wide open until third gear, or when you absolutely have to have traction control, you absolutely have to have nannies to keep the car pointed in a straight line when you're going down the freeway and you hit the throttle on stock tires. That to me is like that's a sign, like, dude, you've blown past tire technology at this point going down the freeway. And trust me, it's cool. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I've owned cars that did that. I mean, my Z06 would wall hunt on stock tires on a hard downshift from fourth to third at 65 miles an hour. Trust me, I know what it's like. But that's really not the goal for this, though. Anyway, sorry, getting back to it. Oh, wait a second. Hang on a second. Sean E's saying, hey, thank you very much. Saying a little nugget for an overdrive transmission for your GMC truck. I can tell you're fired up for a slight change of direction. Man, Sean, I do appreciate that. And it will go to a good cause. So like I said, we're certainly looking forward to it. I know that I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to the journey. That's really more to the point. You know, to me, it's kind of cool because this truck does have a bit of a story. So, you know, let's kind of rewind and take a look at it for what it is. It's a 3/4 ton long bed, but that goes without saying. But it's a 3/4 ton, 50-year-old truck. Not the most desirable thing in the world, but still super cool. Again, and at some point in its life, from the looks of it, again, I would say somewhere around 20 odd years ago, somebody sunk a ton of money into this truck. It was very well loved at some point, but just the wrong mechanics got their hands on it. I mean, the wrong headers are in it. They didn't pay any attention to fuel line routing. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot to unpack. But the bottom line is that the truck has had, you know, a pretty cool journey leading up to this. And, you know, now it's in my hands, and I get to take it on the next part of its journey. The cool thing is that it will always be a cool truck. And that's one thing I did want to say about this. This truck gets all of the love. I kid you not. I have never in my life owned a vehicle that made more people smile, that had more compliments, that more people were going, oh, I love that thing. You know, more story. You know, you basically get like the story. It's an invitation for a conversation is what it is. It's not an icebreaker. It's like neon signs. You take this thing for a drive, or you ride around in this thing, and it's automatic love. So there's none of the pretense, none of the nonsense, none of that. It's just a fun, just a friendly thing to have. And friendly is kind of the direction I'm going to be taking this thing. Again, fast, but not too fast. More fun than anything else. But I just don't want it to lose that quality. That's the main thing. So let's see. Hang on just a second. Let's see. Ooh, I'm messing up here. Oh, I went too far past this. Timeout. Hang on. HE37 saying there's nothing wrong with a small block. I wouldn't want to have a 454. That gets about 8 miles per gallon. The cam will give you power to around 5,800 RPM. Good heads and headers will make for a fun truck. And that's really what this thing's going to be about. So, you know, the idea here is, and you'll keep hearing me say it, just dumb fun. Build the truck that I wish I could have built when I was a kid, and then drive it the way that I would have driven it when I was a kid. Change the oil in it all the time. Make sure that all the nuts and bolts are still good, you know, and tight, because you know, we're rattling these things apart. Anyway, that's the idea behind it. So, let's see. Oh, Rift is replying to Sean and saying, if anything, wide body or not, you definitely need to get some Mickey Thompsons or at least Nitto Tri-5s in order to keep it relatively a daily. In other words, just to try to, you know, make the thing to where you can use any of that power. You know, it's difficult for me to put into perspective how impressed I am with the Hellcat or the ZL1 or the ZR1 or the GT500 and all that. Yay, great, fun, fine. Okay, if numbers are all you care about, then that is the perfect vehicle for you. But if you're looking for something that's just like having a buddy over for a case of beer, that's what one of these things is more about. And that's why I wanted to, you know, at first I was looking at short beds and I wouldn't even entertain the idea of long beds until I started looking at 3/4 tons. So, you know, that's the other side of it. 3/4 tons, not near as desirable, far less expensive, but typically a lot rougher. You know, a lot of times folks just didn't take care of them. And look, this thing might be made full of Bondo, but the fact of the matter is it still looks good and somebody cared enough about it to throw that kind of cash at this thing. Most of the 3/4 tons aren't like that. So, but the cool thing about a 3/4 ton is you get beefier parts. It's got a Dana 60, a Turbo 350, which is going away. Thanks to Dr. Differential, he's going to get me hooked up there with that 700 R4 swap. But the main thing is, you know, it's just something different and it's something cool and something relatable. And dude, it's, you know, we're talking about a Chevy, you know, old school Chevy, which means that if the motor just quits running, which by the way, this thing's got unbelievable oil pressure for having as much blow by as it's got. The bearings and everything seem to be just fine. Of course, I'm rocking Rotella in this thing, but the main thing is, if it does go south, what does an engine cost? What does a rebuild cost? Compared to some of the Mopar stuff, I mean, you basically with Mopar, you take whatever number that a Chevy or a Ford would cost and you multiply it by 2.3. I think that's the conversion rate. Anyway, Dr. Dill saying, like I told my customer, 120 miles an hour is 2 miles a minute. That's exactly right. That's a mile every 30 seconds. Let's see. Well, it's actually yeah, it is. It is a mile every 30 seconds. Bob's full bolt-on cam car will get to 140 real quickly. Yeah, it will. Stuff happens fast at those speeds. Life is worth more, in my opinion. Very true. And look, here's the thing. One of the things that's fun about these cars and trucks, like my wife's Camaro and trucks like this, look, man, anybody can build something that's fast. And if you take enough money and throw it towards anything, if the goal is to make it fast, you'll eventually get there. But then what do you do once it's fast? What can you do? And I've seen too many guys get scared of their cars because they wanted to go faster. They thought that they wanted to go faster until they got faster. And then they freaked out. They just were never used to that. I was fortunate enough to be raised around fast stuff and driving fast stuff or riding fast stuff. The speed was really never a problem for me. But then again, doing stupid things has also never been a problem for me either. So maybe the two go hand in hand. Similarities. I don't know. Anyway, the idea is that fast isn't fun. Fast is a job. And I'll take that a step farther. Fast, it's not so much that fast isn't fun, it's that the numbers are misleading. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If I were to take you for a ride in, perfect example of this will be for modern cars. If I were to take you for a ride in a Dodge truck, and it's say it's a 2014, 2016 Dodge, 2017 like the work truck, 392 gears, a tune, good sound and exhaust, the whole bit, good transmission tune, that thing is going to be pretty impressive to drive. It's going to be fun to drive. If you line that truck up against an EcoBoost Ford, and let's say the EcoBoost Ford has got a tune on it, nothing major, just a tune, whatever, that EcoBoost Ford is going to be quicker on paper than that Dodge will be. But the reality is that the driving experience is significantly different. And that Dodge is going to be more fun to drive. It's going to have that V8 sound. It's going to have that rumble. It's going to want to light the tires up. It's going to want to do all these fun truck, car, goofing off types of things that the Ford just doesn't do. The way that I described the Ford when I test drove it was that the Ford was like driving a very well sorted out, strong running diesel vehicle. You know, go run, run, run. It's just always shifting, always hunting for a gear. Whereas the Dodge is just it takes off. It's, you know, it's like somebody that's 3/4 buzzed trying to find the next beer. It says you know, that's what that Dodge ran like compared to the Ford. It was just more fun. It was more entertaining. So take that up a notch. You get a truck like this, which is light by comparative standards. I haven't weighed it yet. I do want to try to get a weight on it, but I don't think it weighs 4,000 pounds. I think this thing probably weighs something like, I mean, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. It's going on the scales tomorrow, but it might be 3,500 pounds. There's just nothing there of it. But you get something fairly lightweight, old school at least, with an engine that's got good torque, with good gearing behind it, and it's going to feel a lot faster than what it really is. And that to me is just more fun. I don't know where I was going with that point. I got lost. But anyway, I think you guys know where I'm going with that. Dr. Div saying, love the new project, keep the fun stuff alive. Well, this is going to be a good opportunity for us here. And the thing is that I've always wanted to do something a little bit different. 3/4 ton GMC, that's a little bit different. And not really a small block, but it is still a small block, but it's not a big block. But it's got big block displacement-ish at the 400 cubic inch level, so that's a little bit different. The 700R4 conversion will be a strong, a strong push in the right direction to have this thing have modern drivability. Right now, with the gearing that it's got, you would not want to run this thing more than about 75 miles an hour down the freeway. Frankly, I mean, at top speed on this thing right now is maybe 95 miles an hour, because I just think you're going to run into valve float before you can go any faster. If I'm being honest, I don't know what gear is in it, but I can tell you that the transmission is so shot that I don't know. It just may be overdriving, overpowering the clutches at that point, and given the impression that it's. Anyway, I think you get where I'm going with this. The transmission's so far gone, but it'll still cruise. I mean, I can still putter around in it and cruise at like 65 miles an hour. It doesn't really have a problem doing that, but rolling to the throttle and the truck acts like it's got a 6,000 RPM stall in it. Just, it sounds great though. So anyway, but you know, that's the thing is to keep the point. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. The idea is to keep this stuff fun. Too often I'm seeing stuff where guys are, posting, this thing is fast or this thing is doing that or whatever. Man, I'm going to be doing like, burnouts for distance with this thing. I'm going to be doing dumb stuff like that. Just a bunch of goofy stuff with an old pickup truck, man. And, if dumb stuff with the truck is what it's all about, then that's what I want to be all about, because that's what I would have been all about, about 25 years ago. So anyway, getting back to it, we're definitely going to keep the fun stuff alive, Dr. Diff. And be on the lookout for Dr. Diff's channel too, because I'm pretty sure he'll be posting updates as he's working on this thing once he starts getting it, getting it sorted out on his end. Let's see, Luke's saying, it's been a while since I've checked in on your streams. What year is the truck behind you and what engine you running? It is a 1972 GMC C25 and it's got a 400 cubic inch small block in it. Rift is asking, would methanol injection in a stock Hellcat with a tune for the motor and trans be worth it? I'm going to start on one end of the screen, okay? No, it is not worth it at all for any reason whatsoever. If you are going to, on stock boost, throw methanol injection at the car, there's just not going to be anything there for you in terms of cooling. You don't really need it at that point. The other problem is that you're introducing a liquid into a case that was only designed to flow air. So there's clearancing issues that you could possibly run into. You're working with a twin screw as opposed to a root, so it's just a different way of going about it. But no, I would not worry about anything having anything to do with methanol injection on a stock boost Hellcat. Now, that being said, when would I suggest it? I would start suggesting methanol injection at somewhere around the 20 psi range. That would be a 10% lower with a 275 upper. But here's the twist: I would never introduce that methanol before the supercharger. I would introduce that into the case, and it would be a multi-port, or into the port, and it would be a multi-port style system. Yeah, it's a lot more complicated. Yes, it is a ton more expensive, but anything worth doing is worth doing right. And in that case anyway, and it's going to, if you're going to do it, that is really the only way I can suggest doing it to get any real honest to goodness benefit out of it. Because here's the thing, here's what happens. Methanol injection, methanol through the throttle body, into the supercharger, gets compressed, slung up into the, I'm about to point and show you, but there's no Hellcat back there, into the lid. Then it goes into dispersion. You can't tell me where the methanol is going to go in that blower, because your dispersion rate is going to be different. 7 and 8 might get more or less. 1 and 2 could get more or less. 2, 4, and 2, 4, 5, and 6 and 7 could get completely different. Yeah, I think you get the idea where I'm going with this. The point of it is that without direct injection, you can't be certain of the distribution of the methanol. That's why when methanol became real popular for warplanes, and this case fighter planes, when the water injection or later water meth injection was introduced, all of those plate systems were port injection. They figured out pretty quickly that distribution was a huge problem. And in NACA tests, I think they had even proven that. I haven't even thought about this stuff in a long time, but there is and are major concerns with distribution at that point. So, and if the argument is, well, I'm just using it to cool down the inlet charge, doesn't make enough of a difference. The air is going through there so fast and at such a rate that it never really gets a chance to pick up any heat, especially at wide open throttle. Again, it needs to be tuned for the meth injection, and the meth injection has to be done the right way. Otherwise, it's snake oil, in my opinion. Oh, and for anybody about to ask me about meth injection on an NA motor, no. And if anybody tells you to do it, no, they don't know what they're talking about. Basically, you would have to change the tune, throw a ton of timing at it, and then you got to realize that you're introducing fuel into a combustion chamber without any extra oxygen to burn it. What do you think is going to happen? Anyway, sorry, squirrel. Let's see. Unique Grooming saying, what up, B Mason? 285 injector standard, 780-ish horsepower, blue motor, number 2 cylinder. Forester go back with stock pistons. Your thoughts? Well, you didn't tell me what size injectors, but you got a 285 with injectors with a standard and frag cylinder number 2. That is going to be a tune-related issue, or it's going to be a fuel quality-related issue. I would say if the engine is coming out anyway, and there was no damage to anything, and all you did was pop a ring land, which is understandable, I would go back with stock pistons and just take a look at engine's going to be apart anyway. Take a look at ring gap and set ring gap on that thing to about, I would say, I think factory is 25,000. So I'd set it to like 28 or 29,000. But I think you'd be fine with it. I mean, 285, listen, there are a ton of cars running around on 285s and or a 9 or a 10% lower, basically the same thing, on 93 octane with no issues whatsoever. So just something to consider. A little bit extra ring gap isn't going to hurt you. You know, I would say, you know, like I say, just go a little bit over factory with your ring gap and you'll be in good shape. Dr. Div saying, Corey, I love my little S10, 1996 single cab short bed, great work truck. Would love to build a nice is to have some fun, but reliable is more important. Love the S10s. Hell yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Time out. Riff, thank you very much. Appreciate the contribution to the cause and just want to thank you for keeping my passion alive, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. I look forward to it every time. Man, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. See, Rick's saying, I just want to take the time to point out how much help you have given all of us. I'm sure everyone would agree. Man, I appreciate the kind words. I really do. I enjoy it. I have a ball with it. So thank you all for hanging out with me. Shawnee say, exactly, I have my Hellcat because of B Mason and am loving it. Heck yeah. Yeah, your car runs strong, man, for sure. Shawnee saying, it's a nostalgic trip for me. It reminds me of when I was a little kid in the late 70s, talking about your truck. And that's really the idea, is just to, you know, have something that is a throwback, have something that's going to be fun, and just have something that you can goof off with more than anything else. Let's see. Oh, Crazy SRT8 saying, oh man, sorry to see you weren't able to find the right D100 that you were looking for and had to settle, but it does look like a pretty good shape, in pretty good shape though. I wish you luck with it, dude. Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, that's the one thing too, guys, and it wasn't for lack of looking. I had given quite a few Dodges a look, or at least consideration, I should say. But man, at the end of the day, it was tough to justify. So found this thing, and well, here we are. Let's see. CJ's saying, hey B, what's up? Awesome Chevy C20. It is actually a GMC C25. CJ's saying, what I love about my 96 F-150 is that it has a retro look of an old school pickup, but it has power windows, door locks, and air conditioning. Man, this one does not have power windows, does not have power door locks, nor does it have air conditioning. This is a real truck. Actually, it was originally equipped with an air conditioner, but as it sits, it does not have the compressor, unfortunately. Chris is saying, nice truck, man. I'll be done with grad school in 2 weeks and looking for a Hellcat soon. What gear should I put in a manual Hellcat? I hear they're sluggish stock. They are, but unfortunately, you don't have a lot of room to play with. But that being said, you do have some. The 3.92 gear out of a manual 392 car will be great. So don't get the two confused. It's a 3.92 gear out of a manual 6.4 liter. That's really where you want to go with that. It'll wake it up a little bit, but not by a lot. And what you've got to remember too is the reason why they seem sluggish is that that first gear is just drug out. It's a 266 first gear in that thing, and you know that's just not enough gear at all. It realistically needs to be like a 290. Actually, it might be a 230. Sorry. By the way, my allergies are about blown the heck up over here. Anyway, somebody correct me on that first gear, because 266 doesn't really sound right. Anyway, the old Tremix 6-speeds used to be like for V8s was like a 297 first gear. That was a fantastic split, but with the much shorter first gear, meaning smaller gear, in other words, ratio wise, it just makes it kind of doggy in first gear. After first gear, they run fine, but you never get that. How can I explain this, man? It's just, I'll put it to you like this. It works, the ratios work great in a Viper because the Viper is light, it's got really good torque to weight, and they're fine. But in something as heavy as the Challenger, it just doesn't play right. I mean, you got to remember, you're dealing with like 40, I mean, with you in that car, it's going to be about 4,500 pounds. So just something for you to consider. You're trying to make that work with a manual transmission. You need some gearing. CJ is saying, got any plans for the GMC? Actually, we do. So I'll be working with Dr. Differential, and we're going to try to come up with a good 700 R4 swap for these trucks. And this is where the things get kind of weird. It's probably going to have a different cross member. But that shouldn't, in a different length drive shaft, but that really shouldn't be, you shouldn't go much further than that, I wouldn't think. But 700 R4 to give it normal modern car legs. Right now it just does not have very long legs at all. I think at some point somebody re-geared this thing, and although around town it would have been a riot, the reality is that going down the freeway, this thing is not all that fun with either the 410s or the 430s that are in it. But with an overdrive, it would be just fine. And then from there, it's going to move more into the engine side of things. So I'm not really I'm not worried about pulling the engine and doing a lot of work to it just yet. The engine does have quite a bit of blow-by, but 50 years old. And the engine has been worked on at some point in this truck's existence. But again, 20 years ago, tall gear, I mean, you get the picture. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to get the header situation figured out first. I'm going to get underneath the hood sorted first. And then maybe go into some cosmetic things, door skins, rocker panels, things like that. And then get it buttoned up a little bit visually, just from the aesthetic point of view. But I mean, it's still just always going to be a truck, and it's not ever going to be a show truck. It's just going to be there to show off and have fun with. From then on, anything else that has to get done to the truck and just be engine related. And that would probably be me taking the 400. And there's some things you have to do different with cylinder heads with a 400 because they've got steam ports drilled into them. Some weird stuff. 400s are kind of an oddball, like I said, but I kind of like the oddball stuff. Throw a 4-barrel on it. Cam, nothing major because it's not going to turn that high of RPM. I mean, this thing will cap out about 6,000 RPM at the highest. Realistically, I'd like to shoot for a shift point around 5,800-ish RPM, 55 to 58. But, $6,000 at the highest, just kind of depends on where it falls in line. But I'll give you an idea as far as the power band goes. Horsepower, somewhere around 390 to 420. With torque, though, it's going to be a pretty torquey thing. I mean, these 400s are known for torque production. Basically, you get almost big block torque with almost big block horsepower out of the 400s, but in a much lighter platform. So that's the idea that I'm going with this, is to, make big block horsepower with big block torque with the 400. And, in front of that 700 R4, it'll be fine. I mean, we're not talking, 500-600 horsepower. We're only talking about, like I say, at the most 425 horsepower. And if you had it on an engine dyno, probably around, 450, 470 foot-pounds of torque is where it's going to wind up. 510 saying, nice GM truck. I'm jealous. Those GM cars can be built up for cheap and parts are all over. That's the idea, brother. That's the thing. And, you know, as much as I would have loved to have found a Dodge, it just wasn't in the cards. Let's see. Rift is asking, do you think that GM is cheaper to mod than Ford? Yeah, it is. It's cheaper not only in dollars and cents, but it's also cheaper just in availability and convenience. That's what I was trying to think of. It's a lot more convenient to hot rod a GM. And so that's what I want to go back to and say that, you know, if I were a kid, 18, 19 years old, and I wanted to get into this and I wanted a hot rod, what would be the cheapest, best, and easiest way for me to go? You're looking at it. I mean, and again, that is the mission statement, is for me to build the truck that I wish I could have had in high school, and drive it the way I would have driven it in high school, which is to say into the ground. That's the main goal here. And again, you know, when we're talking about, you know, if it's cheaper, it's cheaper, it's easier, it's more convenient. There's a lot more literature out there. It's a lot easier to stay on top of things, really, because the only small block that has any real difference with the other small blocks would have to be this 400, right? So that's the only thing that's going to add any real cost to this. Not really in a rebuild or anything like that. It's just having the steam ports machined into the heads. But aside from that, I mean, use a normal set of heads. You just have to have the steam ports drilled. But that's, you know, small change if you're talking about that versus a Mopar. So and we can get into that, but in general, yes, absolutely, it's cheaper. CJ saying, for me, I prefer the 5-liter Coyote V8 over the EcoBoost V6 any day of the week. So do I. So does everybody, actually. I love my 2011 F-150 with a 5-liter Coyote V8 with a Borla S-Type with the resonator delete, and man, it sounds nasty. Let me tell you something about the Coyote. One of the fleet trucks that we have is, I can't remember the year of it, but it's got it's a 5.0 Coyote motor truck. Anyway, that thing's got almost 300,000 miles on it. It's like 270 something thousand miles on it at this point. And the truck runs like a freaking banshee. So when it comes to longevity, that's why when I talk about Coyotes and I speak about Coyotes, I'm really not only referencing the Mustang, I'm referencing the trucks too. And those things are known for just being, if they're maintained, just being incredibly reliable. So especially when you're running back and forth from, you know, Houston to McAllen, Brownsville, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, you know, the routes that a lot of us take with these trucks, you know, these things just get the miles stacked on them and never have any issues. Arthur Wall saying, B. Mason, that truck may be low 3,400 pounds. It doesn't weigh much, I can tell you that. Shawnee's hanging out with Riff. Let's see. 510 Kurt saying, on another note, I got my 70 Duster with cammed 6.4 Hemi fired up last week. Very cool. I remember asking questions about the 6.4 back in the day. Thanks for your help. Thumbs up, man. I appreciate that, man. That's awesome. You got it fired up. I'm fired up for you. That's cool, man. I love it. Speed Freak's asking, where did you find the truck? Local seller? Actually, I found it on Craigslist. Let's see. But yeah, it was local here in Houston, as a matter of fact. Here in Houston by way of Travis County. Let's see. We were saying, if you're down, Shawnee, hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to see how your builds are going. So you got Shawnee and Rift hanging out. HU3 saying, 7 is saying, if you need to redo the bottom half of your engine, you can get a 383 short block for $2,300 from Jags. Yeah, you can. You can get a 383 for $2,300. You can get a rebuilt 400 long block for like $2,700. And that's the point. You can get a rebuilt whatever block, you know, 30 over with, you know, decent enough parts in it Look, man, there's a lot of guys that have pulled small blocks and thrown them in Camaros and hit them with a $150 shot until they popped. I mean, and they're hard to kill in a lot of cases. So, just telling you, it's a lot more fun. And the other idea was this. The other idea was, okay, once I've got to get the thing sorted out with the right headers. I got to fix a motor mount. Actually, it needs 2 motor mounts, but one of them for sure. Fix some fuel line routing issues, which, how do you freaking get that wrong? Anyway, I've got a lot of tedious things to do that's going to require some things to be out of the way, right? So, but the main thing here is I've thought about the LS swap thing, and I'm not really taking it off the table per se. It's just I haven't really given it a whole lot of thought yet. I've got to get the truck running right. And then from there, I mean, an LS swap wouldn't be that difficult. I know they've got kits galore for these things. They'll bolt right up to a 700 R4, I'm sure. You know, a 4.8, 5.3, 6.0. It's, you know, you put heads cam in it. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. And have something reliable. And then, you know, if you go 4.8, like Doc Div's got a 4.8 floating around, you know, hit that with a $150. Everything's more fun with nitrous, right? Oh, this is a toolbox truck, by the way. On the other side, on the passenger side, there is a built-in toolbox down there, which would be perfect for housing a bottle of nitrous oxide. Yay! See, these 3/4 tons are more fun than you think. Let's see. Oh, CJ saying that 72 GMC C25 looks beautiful, brother. Thank you, CJ. I appreciate that. Let's see. Rip saying the new Nitro Express case for the supercharger on Hellcats looks like it could work pretty well with meth. That's what you would need to get, without a doubt. You would go with that case, and you'll be fine. Just do not do it before the throttle ride. It makes a mess too, for crying out loud. Anyway, sorry, soapbox. Shawnee's checking out, saying good night everybody, good night, be cool truck, adios, see you brother, have a great one. I'll give you a shout tomorrow. CJ's saying there's a YouTube channel called Modern Red Hemi, and he has a 2016 Dodge Challenger RT shaker, shake and bake, and it made 402 horsepower and 411 foot-pounds of torque to the rear wheels with some mods. Yeah, I've seen that. You know, you put a decent sized cam in it on a dyno jet, long tubes, you can make a number. Let's see. CJ's saying mods like ported and polished heads, stage 2 scat cam, 392 intake manifold, Mopar performance cold air intake, long tube headers, high flow cats, and a Borla attack cat pack exhaust. It sounds nasty. Well, here's the thing. That is a lot to do to a 5.7. So I bet it does run good. Rift is saying 262. I don't know what that means. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're talking about the gears. HU, first gear is a 226. That's right. Sorry. Well, I kind of had a brain fart there. But yeah, 226. What was I saying? 266? Yeah, that was, that's just not enough gear, man. We're saying, oh shit, I was right. Canada guy, what's up, dude? Looks like you got yourself a slick ride. Can't wait to see where this goes. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Rip saying, I really want to pin my crank just to be safe, even though Hellcat is still stock boost. Not necessarily a bad idea. Christian is asking if there's any mods I would suggest for a manual Hellcat. Well, same stuff I would do on any of the Hellcats. In your case, I would probably look into a 392 gear just to help wake it up a little bit. But aside from that, solid tune will get you about as far as you really need to be. And a tire. I mean, it depends on what all you're going to be doing with the car. Obviously, get a little bit stickier tire on the thing to get it to where you can actually use some of that power. But really for the manual cars, there's not as much. And really the performance that you get out of the automatics, power is a big deal, right? We all know that. But a lot of that has to do with the transmission tuning. What did I pick up with the red car? Like, I keep pointing behind me. I'm so used to being there. What did I pick up? Like a 1/10.5 or 2/10 just with trans tuning. So a lot of what you're going to find is going to be in trans tuning, a lot of the gains in terms of quarter mile stuff. But if you're just talking about just playing around with the car and goofing off, I hate to tell you this, but I'm happy to tell you this. Save you some money if nothing else. Cold air intakes, in quotation marks, buy one of those for the theater of it, but don't worry about those things making any extra power. You're just not going to see extra power. And that's not just me saying that, that's me living that. I mean, we've got a group of guys, a couple of buddies of mine, several buddies of mine actually, we've all taken our Hellcats in different directions. And we got one that was full bolt-on except for headers. And that car, even with the cold air intake, my car was quicker, or had proven itself to be as quick, if nothing else, and quicker in some scenarios than his with the cold air intake installed. Not very good points for the cold air intake, I would argue. So get one of those, but it wasn't like it lost out, okay? So don't take that the wrong way. It's not like the car with the cold air intake lost power or lost out to the stock intake. It just didn't gain anything. There were no gains. And, okay, to that point, okay, I'm going to get off topic here for just a second, but to that point, what I have proven and was able to prove, and what a lot of people just will absolutely not accept, is the fact that no matter what they've bought, they've been bought and sold by these certain companies, that in that if they tell you that this part is going to make 20 horsepower, they just buy it, they believe it. And I guess in a way you should, right? I mean, you would think that manufacturers would be honest about their products and the performance gains that you can get, but the reality is that they're not. They'll say up to, and my question was, where, when, at what air demand is it going to make that kind of power? I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I've seen some cold airs pick up a little bit on the dyno, but that was extenuating. There are extenuating circumstances. They had fans blowing on them. The hood is up. They're not sucking in the underhood heat, air from underneath the hood. So you can see where I'm going with that. So anyway, yeah, you should be able to believe what the manufacturers say, but most of the time you can't. The stock stuff works great. Buy the cold air for theater. Aside from that, don't worry about anything else for that car. Besides a shifter, Barton makes a fantastic shifter for that car. And then, of course, the line governor mod. I would do that as well. A bit of a tedious thing, but there's a little donut insert in your clutch line right at your transmission. Long wood screw. You just kind of screw it in there and pop it out. It'll be fine. Google it. You can. There's some how-to videos. I didn't do a how-to. I did a video describing it. But anyway, check that out. That's really all I would do for your car, man. 392 gear and call it good. Let's see. Rift is saying Mustang 5.0 or just Mustang in general sound really loud with exhaust. It's because they put really loud exhaust on them. And most of the time they sound like ass. And the thing is, what people don't understand is you have an X pipe. All of these systems are X pipes, and they want to run like no mufflers with an X pipe. That's not really a good idea with the diameters that you're working with, because what happens is there's this tone that comes out of what is more or less 2.5 inch exhaust running through an X. It's real shrill. It's just from the point of view of just the sound of it. It's not so much that it's loud. I've heard a lot of cars that are loud that sounded really good, but it's just that shrill, flat tone that they make. Not a big fan of it. Lightning Blue Media saying, what's up, B Mason? Sick truck and love the color. Thank you very much. He's saying his dad, brother, and I just got through finishing up a 73 Cougar. Thing is slow, but it's a good cruiser. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Old 73 Cougar would be a ball to play around with. Chris McVeigh saying, man, I wish I had the cash now. There's a 6-speed Hellcat on eBay right now with 250 miles for $50K. Patience is a curse. No doubt, right? Let's see. Symphonic saying, speaking of coyotes, stay mode just trapped 150 in the quarter in Florida in 1,000 DA. Pretty impressive with that new Whipple blower. Yeah, I mean, again, the coyotes are tough to mess with in that respect. Hopefully it holds together. That's the main thing. Again, we're talking about somebody that's trapping 150 miles an hour. That is smoking fast. So, let's see. Christian saying, just do what Mike from Roadkill did and put the entire nitrous tank in the bed. No kidding, right? Dr. Div saying, I'd be all over doing a 3/4 ton. I'm super excited for all this. Going to be a blast. Heck yeah, it will be. And that's the fun part about it. I hate to say this, but when it comes to the trucks, I'm kind of over having it beaten over my head that I have to love every short bed that's floating around out there. Now, don't get me wrong. Sure, I'd still love to get my hands on a short bed boxy Chevy truck, but that is right up until you start getting into these 3/4 ton trucks. So I'm actually and I don't know what it is, but I started getting more partial to the 3/4 ton stuff right about the time that I figured out that the short bed stuff just was not going to be part of my future. It just was not going to happen. So, but I like the fact that, for the earlier model trucks like this, it's not the coil springs. It's got true leaf springs on the back of it. Things are just a little bit easier with these trucks. And like I say, this thing rides great. I like the long beds because they ride better. There's more to love with these things. So anyway, I'm a big fan of it, and I'm looking forward to this thing. Cannot wait to get it rocking and rolling. Let's see. We're saying that he was wrong then. I don't know what he's talking about. Let's see. Canada guy saying, almost forgot. Do you know of an old school intake, like single plane, I could use with a stock throttle body on a 5.7? Yes, sorta. So Mopar has a carbureted intake for the Hemis. It is very expensive, but it seems to work fairly well. If you want to go that route, it looks good. It certainly looks the part. Just look up Mopar Gen 3 Hemi carbureted intake manifold. I think is going to get you to the right place. Something close to that, I think it'll get you where you need to be. Rift is asking, do you think the 5.7 has a lot more potential than the 6.4? Man, I don't know if I would say it has a lot more potential, but I'll say this. To the enthusiast, it has more potential to see gains from common modifications. So what do I mean by that? Well, because the 5.7 comes with garbage manifolds, a restrictive, if not restrictive, at least lackluster exhaust system. The 5.7 comes with an intake manifold that is the bottom of the barrel when it comes to performance. It is fantastic in terms of the head flow that you've got with the 5.7. There's nothing that has higher head flow than those 5.7 heads, by the way, or the 6.4, the 6.2 heads for that matter. There's upside to it, but when you compare it to the 6.4, it's hard. It's real difficult to get into the 5.7 versus 6.4 because the 6.4 already has a lot of performance things going for it. Better cam profile, better intake manifold, far and away better exhaust system. And see, all of those things make a difference. If you were to just take the 6.4 manifolds and the 6.4 exhaust system and put them on your car, I think that is the old Scat 1 package, was the 6.4 manifolds with the 6.4 exhaust. And then if you were to take the intake manifold, and I know for a while guys were running them on a window switch, but even at that, you could go with a ported 5.7 or at least a cleaned up 5.7. Anything will help at this point, but that and a tune will get you pretty decent freaking gains. And they're gains that you can feel. There's nowhere really to go with the 6.4. I mean, you can go long tubes, and I'll pick you up some power down low, a little bit of power underfoot under partial throttle conditions. That's about it. But that's really about as far as you can take those things. Aside from a tune and a cam and all that, you start getting to that starts getting real expensive. So for the enthusiast, 5.7 has more potential to just be fun. But in terms of outright power, no, the 6.4 is still superior to it in that respect. Dim Boy is saying, how's it going? It's going good, man. Chris is saying, gotcha, yeah, I just want to cruise around and do a couple of pulls every now and then. I know the 1314 GT500 is considered superior, a superior manual car, but man, the Hellcat is just so good looking. Yeah, and that's, the Hellcats are great, and that's the thing. They're big, they're comfortable cars, and they're great in that respect. The 500s are a little bit more raw of an experience, but that's not to say that it's better. Raw doesn't necessarily mean better in this aspect. So take it for what it's worth, but between the two, you couldn't go wrong either way. But the 500 is going to be snappier with that more aggressive first gear. Chris is saying, I know horsepower ain't everything. I just wanted to throw me in my seat. Absolutely. Chris saying a JLT intake, stainless works headers, a pulley swap, 392 gears, a tire, and a tune are currently on the list. That's all you need, brother. HU37 saying Mustang sounds better with an H-pipe than an X. The H-pipe gets rid of the rasp. It does, and here's the other thing you got to remember. It's a sound wave that you're running into. What's happening is you've got two sound pulses that are trying to basically, you got to remember they're traveling at about 680 miles an hour. Actually a little bit higher, faster than that because of the density inside the pipe. But anyway, I can bore you to tears with that. Anyway, but they're converging at basically the same time, as opposed to there's more of a spacing with an H pipe, and you get the extra volume, the volume sharing between the two. So again, that'll kind of give you an idea of why they sound differently. Let's see. Them boys running saying, I don't know if you've already talked about it, but have you heard of the rumored Charger SRT Ghoul? And do you think, what do you think of it supposed to have the Elephant engine in it? Well, here's the thing about the Elephant engine. People that ordered them a year ago are just now getting their hands on them. So I don't know. And that was supposed to be just a crate engine. I don't know that that's actually going to be something that's going to be a real thing. I don't think it's going to be something you can really hang your hat on. But I will say this: I haven't heard much about it. I wouldn't, like I say, I wouldn't look forward to that thing. There's a lot of weird rumors about the Elephant engine being in a new Charger of some kind, and that's just really not. A lot of that has to do with the fact that there was a Charger that, you know, the SEMA thing and all that. Look, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of folks that have taken a lot of things, they've made things up in their head, like they've created their own reality, and then they put that out there on the internet to just live on its own. The reality is that if there was something like that coming up, we'd have already heard about it a long time ago, because that type of rumor does not, it's going to get out. But again, it just doesn't fall in line with EPA registration, CAFE registration, things like that, all the testing that's involved with it. You're just not going to be able to get the hell offensive passed, I don't think. Not unless it was approved for a limited production, and I don't know that you're going to find it, especially not in the not the Charger for sure. Let's see. Dr. Div saying, how do you feel about a different gear in Pop's car? His is the 6-speed TR6060. Well, the thing is that I don't know which direction I would take that with your dad's car, because, well, for one, it's your dad's car a Gay-Trag rear end, or is it an HP rear end? I can't remember what year your dad's car is. But if it's an HP, you're stuck with a 3.92. And I would probably leave it with a 3.92. It's making the power to carry it in basically like a 392 does, like a 6.4 does. So I'd probably stick with what you got right now. The gearing in the transmission in your dad's car is the traditional 297 first gear, by the way. It's not the same as the Hellcat. Thank God. 762 by 39 is saying best mufflers for little to no drone. I like MagnaFlows. If I'm going with an aftermarket supplier, MagnaFlow is the way that I would go. Symphonics is saying he went with the H-pipe on his 5.0. I prefer the sound. X-pipe gets too raspy. I would have done the same. Then Boys Running saying, I think it's going to be like a Demon, just 1 year released, and it's going to be priced very high if they do. Yeah, more than likely, if they do decide to go with something like that, it's going to be, yeah, it might be a one-only deal, but the problem with the one-only deal is that it's going to be a tough sell in a four-door car. To be honest with you, I don't think the market is really there for something like that. So, I don't know. We'll see. Let Dodge do their thing. Let's see. LSX Jimmy's in saying, what? You got the truck? Hell yeah, 6-cylinder turbo time. Man, I tell you what, not going to do that with this one. This one is a, it is a 3/4 ton. There you go. 3/4 ton GMC C25. Gonna put this thing together to have a little bit of fun with it, but I'm not trying to build something crazy fast. It'll be fast enough. Until it's not fast enough. Until I do, no, I'm just kidding. It's not gonna get too crazy with this one. It might see a little bit of nitrous though, but that's about it. Riff saying, I got some 44 series on my SRT8. The one that's Pro Charged, I'm not happy with the way they sound. They probably drone their asses off. And if you've got 44s on it and you've still got the X-pipe, then it probably doesn't sound good. Chambered mufflers with H-pipes, straight through with X-pipes. You can do straight through with an H-pipe and it still sounds good. And will perform well, but you start getting into the chambered muffler with the X, and what it just, there's a weird, it's like a reverberation with those things. I don't know. It's almost like it's fighting itself. In fact, I've never had good luck with chambered mufflers with X pipes. I just, even like on in the Fox Body Mustang days, they always perform poorly. I did a test with an X pipe. I tested X versus H. Flowmaster style muffler versus straight through on both pipes. And the one that made the worst power was the X pipe with the chambered muffler. It hated that setup. Then boys say, what? No courses? Nah, they're not bad. 762 say I got Outlaw Flowmasters. Those don't think have anything in them. Dr. saying Pops is a 14. That's right. It's got the different rear end. Yeah, that'll be the same transmission though. The 297 first gear. Symphonic saying, unfortunately, kids nowadays don't care about how it sounds. They just want it to be as loud as possible. Yeah, that is a shame. Because they sound like shit. I heard one Mustang the other day. So this is funny. We went to, my wife and I took the truck to Chick-fil-A. You know how Chick-fil-A always has these lines that are out like wrapped around the building, but they just kind of go pretty quickly. And like I said, the fuel line routing is really shitty in this truck. And since it's got the wrong headers, literally the fuel line is that close to the header. And what ends up happening is it goes into vapor lock. So we made it through the drive-through, made it all the way around, and then it went to freaking vapor lock, and I coasted into a parking spot. So we got to have a little bit of a picnic, and that's one of the fun things about owning something like this is you have a lot of impromptu picnics. If you don't know what vapor lock is, it is the most annoying thing in the world, but basically it just means when you boil the fuel inside the lines. And what happens is that this is a common issue with carbureted cars from back in the day that a lot of people don't like talking about. But anyway, it makes it to where the vehicle just can't run. It won't start. You got to let everything cool off. If you don't have a bottle of water with you, you just have to, and you pour it on the fuel pump, a little bit on the fuel pump, a little bit on the fuel rails or fuel lines, and it will usually kind of go away. But if you just want to hang out, you can just hang out and eat some chicken strips. So anyway, there was this guy in a Mustang driving by. That car sounded horrible. And it was so loud. This is the weird thing. It was so loud and so shitty sounding that you could hear it over the guys that have all the lifted trucks out where I live. They'll have like the hot rodded LS stuff, supercharged LSs, the big lifted trucks. Those typically sound really good, but they're also really loud. This Mustang sounded like shit, and it was louder than everything that was running up and down the street. So, God, what a mess. Anyway, sorry. Dr. is saying, well, bedtime for me. You have a wonderful evening, B. Mason. I'm beginning the hunt tomorrow. I like it. We'll chat often, my friend. 76239 saying the MagnaFlow is not a chambered muffler. No, it is a straight through design. And they sound good. Like I say, they're more of a resonator than muffler. I guess they're all the same. I mean, they're all mufflers of some kind. But at any rate, hopefully I have brought you guys up to speed as far as what's going on with the new project. Again, little Miss Sierra, because she is a true GMC Sierra C25. You know I like them girls big, and so yep. Pan over here. There you go. I was working on the truck, got my shop laundry over here. But yep, she is a C25 GMC. There you go. Again, I know she looks great in pictures, but it's going to take a lot to get this thing back where I want it to be. But it's not going to be too far from where it is now. And again, kick panels, quarters, not quarters, but cab corners might get replaced. They've been bonded on this thing. They don't look bad. They just, if you just want to pay somebody to cut them out or whatever. But door skins, obviously Dr. Diff's handiwork on the transmission. Figure out what to do with this 400 small block, and should be a lot of fun in the process. Let's see, then boys, we're going to say, is Flowmaster 80 series a chambered muffler? Yes, sir, it is. Chris McVeigh saying, are there any year models of Hellcats that are better than others? Early production issues, etc. Good question. Obviously, the 2015s are hands down the fastest out of all of them, right? Now, so late 2015, early 2016 productions had issues with the snout bearings in the supercharger. You've got potential issues with those cars, but really not anything after that. Most of them have been pretty solid. As far as which ones are better, they're all the same. There's no real differences throughout the production run. So my car, by the way, is it was built in November of 2014. So it's actually an early production 2015. And I mean, knock on wood, but so far, the car's been fantastic. So definitely been a fun car, no doubt about it. Chris is saying, by the way, thank you for your help. Thank you very much. Let's see. Dim Boys is asking, which is better for a 4th gen Trans Am, chambered or non-chambered mufflers? For that, really won't make too much of a difference at that power level. I would go with sound, but if it is mine and it's a 4th gen, I would go with non-chambered, mainly because it'll give you some room to grow if you decide to throw more power at it later. Again, I like MagnaFlow a lot. It's not like they're paying me or anything, but I've always just liked the sound and the design of the MagnaFlows. And again, with all the X pipes that are out there, I just don't really like the chambered stuff. Although they really do sound good with an H pipe. So just keep that in the back of your mind. If you're going for more sound, what the hell was that? An H pipe. Well, you don't really have the option for that because you're. So yeah, go with a non-chambered for your setup. Sorry. Chris is saying, for the record, I'm 23 and hate loud exhaust. Note over noise every time, man. It's always going to be note over noise. But well, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. You guys have the update on the new project. I will keep you guys posted. But I got to wrap this up because I got to wake up early in the morning. So, you guys have a great one. God bless. That's a wrap on this one. Adios.